Dear respected Thai, dear sisters, dear Sangha, last Sunday we learned the practice listening to the sharing of Brother Phap Dam and Brother Phap Lee. And I heard that many of you liked the sharings and you were very inspired. And so today is the next episode with 3 nuns. I would like to introduce you. Don't be nervous, relax. One of our young sisters, Sister Sắm Mới. She's staying in Sắm Mới. Sắm Mới means the new Hamlet. And when Thầy gave her the name New Hamlet, she didn't like her name at all. And next to her, Sister Xuan. Originally, she ordained in Malaysia. And next to Sister Xuan is Sister An Vui. She's a little bit like Brother Phap Dam. She was ordained when she was 48 years old. And she's one of the happiest nuns in the new Hamlet. And today we'll share in English and Vietnamese. We have enough translators, huh? The reason why we invite Sister Sắm Mới, because after Sunday, many friends in the New Hamlet asked me, how come there are so many young sisters and they are not bored here without games, without movie, without boyfriends? Why did they decide to become monastics, and why they are not bored in Plum Village? And that's why we really begged Sister Sắm Mới, who is very shy by nature, but we are very grateful that she agrees to come here and share, because she has many stories. You see how they support you with big smiles. Don't be nervous. And Sister Sắm Mới became a nun when she was 15 years old. And 6 years later, she became a bhikshuni, a fully ordained nun. And 12 years later, after her novice ordination, she received the lamb to become a Dharma teacher. So she's one of the youngest monastics who received the bhikshuni precepts and the lamb at a very young age. Can you please share with us what made you decide to become a nun when you were 14 years old, and you're not bored to stay in a monastery?
Giới thiệu sơ về mình. Dear Thầy, dear brothers and sisters, dear Sangha. Can everyone hear the English translation okay? I would like to ask permission to share. The reason why I decided to ordain was 13 years ago when I was 15 years old. 15 years old. reason why I wanted to ordain was, to me, I see that it's quite simple for me. The way an adolescent, a 15-year-old thought. When I was at home, I also went to temples regularly. I went with my paternal grandmother, and in the household I lived with my father and my paternal grandmother. And one time I had an opportunity to go to a temple. Before that, my elder sister ordained as a nun already, so I went to visit her. From Hue, and I asked permission to visit my sister for 1 month. When I entered the Prajna temple in Hue, I had an opportunity to interact with the sisters at Thailand temple. Truly, I didn't know Thai's practice. I didn't know who Thai was. I didn't know about the Sangha and how they practiced. I only knew that entering the temple is to chanting. There's chanting and there's sitting meditation. And so after 1 or 2 weeks of staying there, I had a sensation that the lifestyle of a monastic is my lifestyle, because I see that I have more joy when I go to sitting meditation, when I interact with the sisters. I was able to socialize better, and I had more joy in my life. I asked the sister to show me how to sit with joy, to be able to be a sovereign of my own breath when we have sadness and when we have anger. After that, I was able to be approved as a monastic by the Sister Sangha. Up till now, I still don't feel bored in my monastic life, because I feel that the scheduled activities, when I go with the Sangha, I have many joy in that. When I enter the monastery as a nun, I didn't have a goal or an aspiration. I just feel that I had more joy living in this lifestyle than when I was in greater society. And after 1 or 2 years after ordaining, I had a greater aspiration, and I wanted to help my family. I wanted to communicate with my stepmother and with my father better, as well as my biological mother. When I thought in that way, I didn't know how to do it. I just thought to sit and chant with the Sangha. And in my personal time, I practice touching of the earth and send my energy to the people I love. And so after 3 years, in the year 2013, I was able to go home on a home visit to care for my paternal grandmother, who was ill at that time, and I had a chance to interact with my father and as well as my stepmother. But the love in my heart wasn't as great enough to be able to forgive the problems that I used to have when I was at home. And so in 2015, I had another opportunity to go see my father. And I wanted to ask him about the things that I had confusions about in the past as well, regarding my father as well as my mother. And when I knew about their situation, I saw that as a monastic, I need to transform the hurt in my heart first, in order to accept my biological mother or to be able to love my father. And with my stepmother, after that, I invited my stepmother to go to Plum Village, Thailand for a Vietnamese retreat. And I practice to release all the conflict between my stepmother and I in the past. And I see her as a new person, and I see her as my mother. And when we had an opportunity to sit together and spend time together and talk with each other, I had a chance to understand her difficulty as well. And in a year or 2 years afterwards, I can see my stepmother. There's harmony between me and my stepmother, and that made me very happy. And I saw that I could do something useful for my family, first and foremost for my family. And I can see that in my own body, in my mind, I was also happier. And I could open my heart to and spend time with the sisters more naturally. And there was no barrier between me and the sisters in the Sangha. And over the years, I practiced with the Sangha. Up till now, I still maintain the practice, my personal practice. I still practice generating happiness within myself. I join in on the walking meditation with the community. And in New Hamlet, I really like to join in walking meditation with the community and enjoy each of my steps. And each time I feel that I had peace in myself, I had happiness and joy. And I invited my father to join me on the walking. And I know that at home he's very busy and struggling to find ways to support my brother to go to school. And so I also invited my father to breathe with me. And so when I walk like that, I feel very happy, and I was able to invite my father to walk with me. To this day, I still feel that I'm very happy to stay in the Sangha. I can feel the love from the sisters, the care that and the support that they have given me in my practice every day, and also their guidance. And when I go to sitting meditation, I see that I have joy in sitting meditation. I have peace when I am able to join in on the activities with the community, and I have joy in interacting with the sisters and with the brothers. And that's a bit of my sharing. I like to thank you for listening. In your sharing, I see that there is an important part. That's when you asked your father the questions, the confusions that you had in your heart from childhood, that you had not had an opportunity to ask anyone. And that moment was probably the most important moment, that afterwards it was able to unravel the knots you had, and you were able to understand your father better. And can you share a little bit more about that moment when you've asked your father, and when your father shared with you what emotions, what feelings came up in you? Did you shed tears? How were you able to practice during that moment of confrontation? How your father was able to answer those questions? And that was a very important moment in your life. And can you share more about it? Dear Sangha, the day that I sat with my father, those questions were already in me when I was still living at home. But when I was at home, it was very different than when I ordained. At home, I was a daughter, and when there's conflict between my parents, I saw that was a very dangerous situation. And if I didn't ask the right question or properly, then I might get scolded. So in my mind, I posted those questions, but I didn't say it out loud. And so the small conflicts and the things that my parents struggled with, and in the paternal and maternal side of the family, and I also heard rumors by neighbors, and so I didn't know which one was true, which side was right and which side was wrong. And after I ordained, I uh, I invited my father to stay in the monastery for 2 weeks with me. And in that second week, I remembered when I asked him, uh, the question I wanted to ask him was, why did my parents couldn't stay together? And when my father answered the right and the wrong in among the two sides, I saw that when you live in society, the right and wrong, we often think we are right, and we often think the other person is wrong. And so with me, when I was living at home, I also thought my mother was wrong. My mother abandoned me. But when I became a monastic, I looked back again and I saw that she also had her own difficulties and she couldn't stay. And I also saw that I received the love from my father and my paternal grandmother. And so when my father shared with me all his conflicts and the conflict between my mother and my father, and I just sat there and listened, and I didn't judge. I didn't judge whether my father or my mother was right, because if I took my father's side, then certainly I cannot forgive my mother. And and so I had a chance to see how my father saw the situation. I just sat and listened. And I also saw that my father needed an opportunity to speak out and to be understood. And so when he shared all the situation, and then he went home, my father also became a different person. After when I called home, and my stepmother told me that, what did you do that your father had changed 360 degrees? And my whole family was surprised by that change after the retreat that he stayed with me for 2 weeks. And my father was more open, was more relaxed, was happier and more easygoing. And so I saw that my father I saw that my father didn't need someone to take his side, but he just needed a chance to speak out his conflict, and he wanted for his children to understand his conflict. And so when I went home for home visit, I had a chance to sit with my father, with my father more, and I had a chance now to understand him better. And with my biological mother, I also asked her. And it's also a different situation. My mother also thought she was in the right, on the right. She was right, and so I saw that there were two sides to the conflict, and I saw that with my mother's perception, it was different. And so, because I didn't live with her, I was only able to sit and listen to her, to console her, and let her know that I also love her, and I also was able to have compassion for her. And so after that moment, I sat and I didn't cry, but afterwards I reflected. And And so after my father left and I left to go home and I stayed back with this community, I felt deeply the things that he said upon reflection. And so I was able to let go of the things in the past, and I was able to become a new person. I see that I was then able to blend with the community better and assimilate with them better. And before that, I was often very introverted, and often I feel like I had an inferiority complex, and I was afraid to interact with others. But after I spoke with my father and had a heart-to-heart with him, I was able to resolve the conflicts that my father had inside him, and as well as the conflicts inside me. I felt in my body I was lighter and I was happier, and I had more joy to live in the community. And that's what I'd like to share with the community. Thank you. Dear Sangha, a few days ago in New Hamlet, I had a chance to introduce the practice of beginning anew with the lay practitioners. And this is the way that you begin anew with your father, that didn't follow the format of the Plum village of beginning anew, but it's actually indeed beginning anew. And so what practice helped you the most to be able to listen to your father without reacting or judging, and listening to your biological mother, to listen and was able to provide the space that allowed your father to have the inspiration to share his pain? Because many, even in our community, and there are often times we want to listen to begin anew, to share heart to heart with somebody else, but the other person is not able to open up, or the other person in the time while they're speaking, we cannot stand it, or we react and we cry, or we have to say something in response to interrupt their sharing. They're in the middle of speaking and we had to open our mouths to say something. We couldn't be able to sit still and listen in silence. And so this is not an easy practice. And so what do you think in your practice that helped you to be able to sit still and listen and let the person have the space and the inspiration to share their innermost conflict? Thanks to what practice do you think in your life? Because this is not an easy thing to do. Dear community, I think in part, my father understood the love I have for him, as well as my mother. When I sat and I spent time with my father, I didn't have a goal. I just invited him to sit and have tea with me. And so in the beginning of our sitting down together, we shared stories together here and there. We asked about the well-being of our family members. And so when I asked about the well-being of our relatives, I also asked about the people around him in his life, and then I went into the topic. And when I asked him about that main topic, I share with him that I want to share with him the hopes that I had and the thinking that I had regarding the family that I haven't had a chance to share with him, for him to know, for him to understand. Because when I was at home, the relationship between me and my father, we did not speak very much together. So it was a rare occasion that we spoke with each other. And so that was the first time that I had an opportunity to actually speak with him for a long time. And so I wanted to share with him so he knew about the difficulties I had and how I practiced while living in the community and my hopes and aspiration. So I also shared about my thinking and my feeling when I think about the family, and I hoped for a happy family. I didn't want our family to continue as before. The conflicts between my mother and my father, my siblings. I want all of them to live a happy life, a meaningful life. And so I shared with him everyone around us deserved to be loved, deserved to be thought of and cared for. And so I shared with him at that time I had lived in the community for 5 years, and I saw that when I thought of our family and I thought of him, my father, a lot, because I saw that his life was it's not very smooth flowing. He strove to take care of 2 children, and he struggled a lot to take care of my brother and I. And alongside that, I also had my mother helping. But in the 5 years that I had been in the community, these are the things that I thought about. And I aspired to want to help the family, my family. And I share with him how I touch the earth and how I sat and how I send my peaceful energy to my family as well. When I walk, how I invited him and my mother to walk with me. And so when I shared like that, my father, at the beginning, he hesitated and thought a little bit, and he was pensive. And so after a moment, I also saw that my father also spoke, shared regarding the conflicts between my mother and my father. And then after that, how both became unhappy together. And he also shared about the things that happened. I sat with him for actually 4 days. We had 4 sitting sessions together, and sometimes we sat and we also sat for a very long time. But I saw that every time I sat with him, when I went back to my living quarter, I saw that the things that he shared and that he had tried, he tried very hard during the time that my brother and I had lived at home. And after the times that he shared with me, he shared with me that he had shared everything with the sister, and he also hoped that the sister also has happiness in her life. And so I told him that if you want your daughters to live happily, then the sisters also hope that you will live happily with your family and love the people in the family. Through those interactions, my father also understood what my aspirations were, my hopes were. And the things that we yearned to share with him, because this was the first time that he heard us share with him. And after that, he returned home. I saw that my family was happier. And to this day, with me, I'm very happy to think about my family, because between my father and my biological mother, they are now friends. When I was in Vietnam in 2016, my grandmother passed away. My biological mother also came to visit from Đắk Lắk, and she went from Đắk Lắk to Huế, and so she also offered incense to my paternal grandmother, and my father was also there. And after that, I invited my mother to sit down to have tea with my father, and so there were a group of 4 of us, now 5 of us. And so whenever I think about my father or my biological mother, my father is happy to hear about it. It's not like in the past when I mentioned about my biological mother, my father would be pushing aside the situation. But now I think about my family and I'm very happy because I see that my family now are happier, and my father, my younger brother, as well as my biological mother. Now the whole family has more happiness living with each other, and I see that. I also try to, when I live in the community, I also have happiness and joy. When I attend the schedule of the activity of the Sangha, I would like to share that with the community. Thank you for listening. Thank you, sister. Listening to you, I see that there are 2 important points: that you reserve time for your father, and when you listen to your father, you also opened yourself up to him first, and then you were able to express your love for him to him. And I think that that is also the key point that helped him to open up and share all his difficulties. And often we have difficulties that stretch for many, many years, but when we learn about the beginning of new practice, and we just hope to sit down for a few hours and resolve everything, but there are situations that I saw you were able to set aside many hours, many sessions, many opportunities to spend time with him, and in the mindset of relaxation and the mindset of being there for each other. And that's how your father was able to sense your love for him, and he was able to open up and share all his feelings with you. I thank you very much for sharing, and I learned a lot from your sharing. It's very touching.
Now, I would like to ask Sister Xuan. Last Sunday we heard, we listened to Brother Pháp Lý, and we learned that Brother Pháp Lý comes from a different tradition. He was Christian, and even in Buddhism we have different schools and different tradition. And Sister Xuan, she was first ordained in Malaysia from the Pure Land tradition. And Sister Xuan, can you please tell us a little bit about the difference in your tradition with Plum Village tradition, and what made you decide to join us here?
Dear respected Thầy, dear Sư Mẹ Chan Đức, dear Sư Cô, and dear Maha Sangha. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the question, and also thank you for Sister Samoy sharing. Make me really help me to reflect my past. When I first ordained or when I practice as a lay. So I ordained in the Pure Land tradition, but before I ordained, I already practiced for some years in Zen tradition, in Korea, Chinese traditional tradition, in both Mahayana and Theravada tradition. And then I also joined, experienced the life in Japanese Zen tradition and Korean Zen tradition as well, for retreats, different retreats. And but after that, somehow the conditions that allow me to ordain is in a Pure Land tradition, which is totally different tradition. And Pure Land tradition, basically, we practice chanting, morning chanting and evening chanting, and it depends on if different temples and monastery. And the temples that I ordain is we just have morning and evening chanting. For each chanting session is more than an hour, slightly. And after that, we have breakfast and lunch together with the master, with the Sifu. And after breakfast, we will do some working meditation according to responsibilities that we receive from Sifu. And afternoon, our master, our teacher, allow us to rest. And so basically that's it. We don't have like a real, very organized schedule like what we have here in Plum Village. And I really love Zen tradition, whereby we can practice sitting meditation and walking meditation. And so when I came to Plum Village, France here, I was so happy. I felt like really in a Pure Land. Even though I don't recite the Buddha of Amitabha at all, I don't chant the Sutra of Amitabha at all, but I really feel I'm in the Pure Land. I don't need to look anywhere else. And it's like, but also because of having been to so many traditions, temples and monasteries in different countries, and I really see that when I want to become a nun, a monastic, whereby I want to walk my life, whole life, and with the support and guidance of the Sangha, I really see Plum Village is the place. We have classes, and also the Dharma doors, the practices here is really amazing. I can really say amazing. And because before I was lay, I already practiced sitting meditation a lot. And even though there is very intense practice, and also in Korean Zen tradition, I also do a lot of prostration, 108 times every day. And I remember first few months, I even do until 1,000 times every day. But all these practices, I could not touch my suffering. I could not touch. Because maybe because after listening to Sister Samoy, I got to reflect. Because at that time, as a lay, I hold on to wrong view. A wrong view is like, oh, I want to get enlightenment. I want to become Buddha. So the very big dream. And to me, like all this aspiration to have better relationship with my family members, is something I felt is totally not important. And so I just never think about it. But until I come to Plum Village, I realized that just the practice of walking meditation itself, that I first learned when I was in Malaysia at that time, still a lay. My master actually brought the booklet of practice from the heart, that she attended Thai's retreat, 4 days retreat in Port Dickson in Malaysia, 2010. And she gave me the booklet. I just read the booklet about how to practice walking meditation. And when I practice, and the instructions saying like when you breathe in, you're aware of how many steps you make. When you breathe out, you're aware of how many steps you would make. And when I tried just really coming back to my in-breath and out-breath, I felt like that intense concentration immediately arose in me. The concentration that I experienced, I could not think of anything. But in the past, when I practiced sitting, I still need some time to slowly, like maybe at least 20 minutes to slowly slow down, disperse mind. But just that Dhamma though, just be aware of in-breath and out-breath, and aware how many steps you make. I find that I cannot think. My mind cannot be dispersed at all if I want to focus on my in-breath and out-breath. And just that experience at the moment, I really felt some difference. And compared to I have been practicing sitting so much and touching the earth so many times a day. And I'm so lucky that in the year 2010, I came to Malaysia. In October or November, I attended Thai's the public talk. In the public talk, my master is very kind. Somehow it's also the bridge asked me to go, even though I was just a lay, and asked me to attend the talk. And so when I listened to when I see Thai and the Sangha walk up to the stage, I just felt, oh, I just look like that. I don't see something like grand and special. I just see a group of people already walk up to the stage. But when I listen to the chant, when the monastics start to chant the chant of Avalokiteshvara, somehow at that moment, I felt like my mind is like some people say at the moment of death, like you will flip through your life, one event after another event, that kind of like flip through. Everything just passed. What I have been done for 29 years at that age, what I have been done, all my suffering, or my things that I can never touch at all, in other traditions when I practice this for so long. And so because of that experience of listening just to the chant itself, I really felt melted. The first time I can really feel and see what I can never see. And I have so much faith of these two experiences towards Plum Village Dharmadors and towards Thai and the Sangha. And because of that experiences also, I in fact have that kind of voice inside of me. Thai and the Sangha is my teacher. He's someone I will take refuge in. Yeah.
Dear sister, so in Plum Village we also chant a little bit, but how come you could touch your suffering and before you couldn't? Can you tell us what helped you touch your suffering while listening to that chant?
Dear Sangha, so I guess it's the collective energy of the monastic and so the presence of Thai. because I see Thai's insight is very bright and sharp since the beginning, the building the Sangha. Because I see that one drop, and how Thai guide us before we chant the chant of Avalokiteshvara. I guess it's the collective energy of the compassion, and also the practice of each monastic and in the Sangha at that moment who chant, that really touched me. And also because I've been to so many traditions, but yet they don't have like so many monastic in a community most of the time, and very harmony and very organized. It's only a few monastics most of the time, and also I guess the energy of compassion really like melted the fear that I had since teenage when my mom passed away when I was 17. And that fear is so great that I was fearful for everything. Fear for death because of my mom's death, fear of getting old, getting sick, fear of seeing my own suffering, fear of seeing my weaknesses. If I have, I have this greed, or I have this anger, or I'm ego. I just have fear to get in touch of others, and those fear is so great that I could not touch, even though I have been to sitting a lot, chanting a lot. And also in the temple, the chanting, we chant very fast. I felt like I'm on a train of rushing to somewhere, but I don't know where. I really felt like, I don't know why we need to chant so fast. Every morning just chant very fast, and evening also chant very fast. I could not feel what I'm chanting, in fact. But that I guess that is something perhaps in Plum Village, Thai's insight of how to teach, Thai's teaching, like to bring us back to the present moment. And just our Plum Village song itself already teaches us so much. Nothing to go, nowhere to go, nothing to do, and no need to hurry. I guess this is such an important practice. But for myself, I still see this habit is still in me. Even though practices for more than 10 years, I see that but as long as I can calm down, just this habit, the energy of wanting to rush or hurry, I can really be fully present in the present moment. And when I can really be fully present in the moment, that energy that I radiate from the present moment, that body and mind fully here, is very different in whatever I do. No matter I chant or I don't chant, it will be just different. So that's what I felt like, and I get in touch and learn so much after years of practice. And I guess it is so powerful from the PV Sangha at that time, when the whole Sangha chanting together in that way. I guess it's all the monastics have been practicing for some years, that when they chant, they already have the capacity to be in the present moment, the body and mind, and can radiate that kind of very powerful energy of, and its collective energy of compassion. Especially we invoke the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, which is the energy of compassion, of deep listening. And it helps me to listen deeply to myself. And I also unfold the fear that I have been carried for years.
Thank you, Sister. I understand when you mentioned about the collective energy, because I also feel that when we practice walking meditation in the New Hamlet, just with the New Hamlet Sangha, the energy is very different from the energy when we are 3 Hamlets together on Thursday and Sunday, and when we walk together mindfully, being aware of each step and each breath we make. I feel the collective energy is much stronger than when we do in a smaller group. Thank you, sister, for your beautiful sharing. Last Sunday, when Brother Phap Dam, probably around Sister An Vui's age, during his sharing, he mentioned about his habit energies. He has lots of habits, and as a monk living in the community, he also had difficulties, and he had to practice a lot. He has to practice a lot to overcome the difficulties. And Sister An Vui, I would like to hear more from her, because how come she can, everyone in the New Hamlet, we see that she's one of the happiest nuns in the community. And with lots of habits, you became a nun when you were 48 years. How do you practice with your habits? And first, do you have difficulties with your younger sisters? For the difficulties with the young nuns who always say that I'm your older sister. Do you have difficulties?
Dear respected Thai, dear sư mẹ, dear Sangha, and thank you, sister, for asking the question. I'm very happy to be sitting here with the sisters to share our practice together with the community. I am one of the people who ordained when they were older. I was born and grew up in a family that practiced 2 Buddhist traditions, the northern tradition and the southern tradition. When I was young, I went to temples with my parents to offer service and also to chant only. And I lived in the family with 8 brothers and sisters, and I was the youngest of 8. And I was very lucky that my family loved each other, and I had the opportunity to take care of my parents when they were older and support my brothers and sisters and my nieces and nephews. Because I was single, I didn't have a family then. Up until I was 45 years old, I had the opportunity to meet the Plum Village Sangha and Sư Ông Thai. And suddenly in me, something came up. Why is it now that I get a chance to meet a concrete way to practice Buddhism like this? But I was very happy that I saw that Thai was like a living Buddha. I saw that the community of practice was very peaceful. And at that time, I didn't think that I would ordain. And I thought about ordaining, and I knew that the community didn't accept older aspirants. I wrote in my letter that now I don't have anything that holds me back. I only have my elder mother who needs me. I really want to ordain, so what can I do to be able to fulfill that aspiration? And I was lucky that I lived in a family that my brothers and sisters and my nieces and nephew also practiced the Plum Village style community then. And everyone, and they had lived in different places in the world, and so they knew about the Plum Village practice. And being at home taking care of my mother up until 2009, then I wrote an official letter to the community to ask to become an aspirant, and Sister Jung Kong replied that you're older, but your letter is very lovely, and so we had no choice but to accept you. I see that I'm very lucky, partly because my family really supported me, and they had practiced the Plum Village practice, and so when I was a practitioner, I was very happy because Thai taught meditation under the bright light of the Southern School of Buddhism, and so I had a lot of peace and I learned a lot. And after that, I was able to practice in our Plum Village tradition. The older we are, when we ordain, we have no choice but to be younger sister to everyone. And in that ordination family, my sister's new Hamlet was my elder sister. At that time, I was 48, and I had to be her younger sister in the ordination family. But I still have happiness, and I was able to. I received care from my younger elder sister because I was the youngest in my ordination family. And so that also offered me that chance to learn and to be nourished by the love and the care of the brothers and sisters and the community in general, because I always have an aspiration. How can I know how to love and take care of people around me? And that was one of the things that allowed me to become, it allowed me to see how to have peace in myself and in my surrounding. And when I see in the community, there's already peace there for me. And so when I ordained, I had a chance to begin again, to learn from the beginning, to learn mindfulness. I learned from the beginning, and that was a very happy thing that allowed me to begin all over again from the basic, as though I was a child. And at that time, I was a young nun, and so I learned mindfulness. I learned mindfulness in walking, eating, speaking, in everything. And at that time, after I ordained, after a few years, I was able to receive the great precepts. And when I practice in the community and live in the community and take refuge in the community and attend the schedule regularly, and so when I learned, studied the basic practices, I already knew how to balance between study, play, and work and practice. And in our community, we have 4 aspects in practice, study, play, and work. And the play with the community at home when I was a lay practitioner, I only knew to go to work and then go home and go home. After going home, went to work, and so I didn't know how to communicate with others, and I didn't know how to take care of myself. And so often when I worked, when I was in lay life, I worked often more than I could rest and more than I played, and so I wasn't a fresh and relaxed person. And so when I wrote the letter to ask to ordain and become an aspirant, I also shared that I had a fear and a worry in me that I couldn't love my mother, and that I wasn't fresh, and so, and in my face, I always had a worry shown on my face, and that's why the Sangha gave me the Dharma name An Vui, which is peacefully happy. And when we're not happy, then we cannot make others happy. And so in my heart, I wanted to help others to be happy, but I didn't know how to. And so that was difficult for me. And then we inadvertently would create difficulties for others. With the years past, I took refuge in the community and I learned a lot from the community, and I was able to transform myself and I was able to smile more. The sister asked me to share about my difficulties in the Sangha. Often when I live in the community, the environment is an international environment, and I was born and grew up in the city, and so living in a small family, and it was like a small society. It's not like living in the community that's international. And we come from different backgrounds. Even though we live in the same place, we came from different regions in the world, and so we have many differences. And I'm quite slow. I understand slow, but I react fast. I study slowly, I understand slowly, but I react fast, so I suffered a lot. And I couldn't understand. I didn't understand the guidance by my elder sisters, and so I often have reactions inside of me when I hear it. And when I was a young child, when I was a young nun, I didn't react outwardly, but I had an internal knot. And because at that time I only understood that much, and when I grew up more in the Sangha and I matured more with the biological age, I also have my habit of reacting very fast. And there are some younger sisters and some elder sisters who were very young, like a niece, a nephew to me, but the way they shared it made me feel that I did something wrong. And at that moment, I felt that I was very ashamed, embarrassed. And I'm not young anymore to make a mistake like that. And so I blame myself. And so I reacted. And so it made me very ill at ease. And so I practice walking meditation. In the community, we live in the Sangha. There are many advantages. We have the schedule of the community from morning to evening. Those are the things that nourishes us. And so we're very lucky because in the morning we get to go sitting. We eat in mindfulness. We offer service in mindfulness. And when we sit in silence, we get to look back at ourselves and reflect, and we see that I see that I and the other person have that interaction and that connectedness. And so I accept the things that are not to my liking. And I also see that the other person is also a young child. And in the past, she had also been careless or is suffering. And they have touched my young inner child. So when I was a child, I also did those things that made my parents worried and sad about me. And I didn't know how to use loving speech or deep listening. So when I looked deeply, I saw that between me and the other person, there are some connection, and even we just need to sit in tranquility, and I can see that I really love her, my younger sister, my elder sister in the community, and they are also my loved ones. They're also my beloved, and I was able to come out of that difficulty often. And when I live in the community, I practice taking refuge in the community, go to attend the schedule regularly. And whenever I do something, I often try to generate happiness in me and in my surrounding. And that helped me a lot so that I can take care of myself better. Thank you, community, for listening. Certainly, your elder sister have made you suffer, unhappy. So can I share it now? Dear community, when I was born as a monastic in the spiritual family, when I was born as a monastic, uh, everyone was sent to other international centers, and only in Thailand, Plum Village, Thailand, there were about just five of us. And then after that, Sister New Hamlet also went back to Vietnam, and so to this day, I have been here for 4 years and 6 months, and I'm very bad at rituals and routine and chanting, and I don't know how to cook either. And so I live in the city. I used to grow up in the city, so I don't know how to cut a coconut, chop open a coconut, or I don't know how to carve a pineapple. And so my work in the kitchen is very slow, and my chanting is also not very good. And my elder sisters, to be honest, they're very good and they study very fast. And so I often get scolded for everything I do. They say, you're that old and you don't know how to do it. You can't even do that. How can you eat? And then I say, okay, I won't do it anymore. I don't take for granted, and I just want to share that. I just go find things that I could do. I see that those things, it's not worthy to make me suffer. Those are the things Those are the things that nourish me. It's just being scolded that I couldn't do it. So it's a natural thing that if I could not do it, then I got scolded. And I see that the community is the guidance by Thai and by the monastics for each other. It's very friendly. It's from a place of love. And when they see our shortcomings, they remind us, and that is an expression of love. And I also see that now I am older, and I'm older in biological age, and I still see that I really want to do something that I can. So when I come here, from an Asian environment to an European environment, I also saw that my health has declined somewhat, and I had a complex because of that I couldn't follow the rhythm of the community. And our community is wonderful, and the community can do everything. And I saw that I had limitations, and so I had a little bit of complex. And so at that time, the community really supported me. The things that I could do, and I had to accept that those are my limitations. But in the beginning, I had a complex that why can't I help the community as much? And at that time, I learned to stop. And then afterwards, I learned how to truly take refuge in community. I had to take refuge in community and accept their love and support. And I accepted the things that I could not do and could do. And I did what I could so that I could be a happy monastic for myself and for others, so that I can send that happy energy and that peaceful energy for the people I love, for Thai. And I want to thank Thai and the community for always there guiding us.
Thank you, Sister An Vui. And listening to your sharing, you see that we all have challenges, lots of challenges, and we need to practice every day. As lay people, you have your challenges at work, in the society. As monastics, we have our also lots of challenges, and we need to practice a lot every day. Sister An Vui has her own challenges, but she doesn't have the ones of young monastic have. She doesn't have strong sexual energy, for example. So, so she has advantages that the young ones don't have. In a few words, we all need to practice every day. If we have some peace and happiness today, we continue to practice in order to maintain. Sometimes we have some peace and joy and happiness, and I'm relaxed now. And then that's why we need continuous practice. And Sister An Vui also mentioned the limit of age when we want to become monastics. In Vietnam, it's 35 years old, but in the West, Thai has increased it up to 50. And the reason is that when we are young, we serve the Sangha for a number of years, and when we get old, we don't have a strong physical health. And after serving the Sanghas for many years, we don't have complex. But if we just join the Sangha, and because of the limit of our physical capacity, we may have lots of complex living in a community. And when we have lots of complex, we isolate ourselves, and we are not happy monastics. And it would be a pity because we can practice and serve either as monastics or lay. And we need to choose the right path for ourselves to be happy practitioners under either form, monastic or lay. So those policies help us to choose the right path for us to be happy as practitioners. Thank you, sisters, for having shared your practice, and thank you for listening to the sharings. Now we will listen to 3 sounds of the bell, and let's enjoy our collective energy of mindfulness, of concentration.